Hey everybody, welcome back to BobkeTV. Well, it's Tuesday. You know what that means. It's time once again for the Broom Wagon, for Bobke's Broom Wagon. A lot to get to. Liege-Bastogne Liege had a surprise winner. Tour of Croatia, they are dancing on the podium. British cycling controversy, as they say. All of that next on Bobke's Broom Wagon and much, much more. All right, let's get to the good and the bad and the ugly at Liege-Bastogne Liege. The good, Wout Poels. Wouter Poels, not one of the heavy pre-race favorites, outsider at best, and a fantastic, commanding surprise win in abysmal conditions. Wout Poels delivers Team Sky their first Monument Classic win ever after many, many tries. So Wouter Poels did a great race and was strong at the right moment. Tactically, he rode perfect, and that's what it takes. The team came with a very strong squad, leading ostensibly Michael Kwiatkowski, joined by Chris Froome in the absence of Sergio Henao for biological passports, abnormalities that the team and the governing body is looking into. But in the meantime, Wouter Poels delivers a great victory for Team Sky. And if you ever wonder what it means for a professional bike team, now Sky just one out of 25 teams in Liege-Bastogne Liege, and 200 racers, and there can only be one winner. But let's take a look at what kind of pandemonium broke loose in the Team Sky bus and how much it means to win a monument. Here we go. Take it away, Team Sky. That is what the sport is all about, that wild exuberance when your guy wins a classic. Incredible victory by Wouter Poels. Okay, let's see the bad. They're a little bad to report. The motos way too close to the riders. I mean, there was a few times where it looked like there was more motorcycles following the race than there were men in the breakaway. 8 guys in the early breakaway, including Alessandro De Marchi, Thomas De Hent, specialists in the breakaway tradition, and just surrounded by way too many motorcycles. So when it comes to crunch time, those motos are still in there, in between the break and the peloton, and just continue to be way too close. No problems to report. No crashes caused by that. But the closer you get, the more motors you have, the more chance there's going to be a collision. So let's try to control that a little bit. Shall we, UCI? Thank you. Vincenzo Nibali, not a great day. Bad day for Nibali. Dropped in the finale. Lost 2.5 minutes. Did not look spectacular, obviously. And Giro d'Italia, where he is hoping to win, starts in 2 weeks. So hopefully it's a very productive couple of weeks for Vincenzo Nibali, and he's on good form going into the Giro d'Italia, which he has already won, and is going to take a backseat, theoretically at this point anyway, to Fabio Aru, his teammate during the Tour de France. So Vincenzo Nibali has decided he's going to go all in to try to win the Giro d'Italia this year. The ugly, abysmal, apocalyptic weather conditions, snow, rain, sleet, slippery roads, but not icy. And the riders, I will not say lucky. I will say the spectators were lucky. The people watching in the comfort of their own homes that are warm, or a cafe, or perhaps for a moment on the side of the road. But for the riders, unlucky to have such horrible racing conditions. The UCI Extreme Weather Protocol was called in to alter the course a little bit, and the race was able to proceed almost all of the miles. All the climbs were used, so none of the climbs were taken out. But the ugly had to be the weather. into the sun, into the rain, then snow blowing sideways. Just a really, really intense, very difficult race. And when it's that cold and miserable for that many hours, close to 7 hours of racing, whoever wins is truly a champion, and whoever finishes is a hero. And from the Tour Croatia, the good Matija Kvasina. Hard stage race, and always fabulous to get a win in multi-day courses. Not that I would be too familiar with that. I do believe I won the Tour of Marin way back. But anyways, also the good Giacomo Nizzolo, getting the better of Mark Cavendish twice in 3 tries. So Giacomo Nizzolo on good form and sprinting well, getting the better of Mark Cavendish. That doesn't happen very often for Nizzolo. And also the good, probably the best podium celebration in the history of bike racing. There's been a lot, but this got to rank up there anyways, if it's not the best. Sonderholst Enger won the last stage, and here is his celebration from the podium. Take it away, Sonder. Norway. Who knew? Who knew the Norwegians could produce the dance moves? That is awesome. But the bad and the ugly, you got to consider. I mean, if you think the motorcycles are dangerous and the cars are dangerous when they get too close, how about the helicopters? So close to the ground that they blew the barriers over and into the street. There was no consequences. Nobody crashed and was injured, but can you imagine in a sprint in the final kilometer if that happened and the peloton was sprinting for the line? Now, a little respect for the riders from everybody involved. And the race promoters, if they can't provide a safe race for the riders, a safe course, the UCI should not sanction their races. Obviously, there's anything that can happen, but every step has to be taken for the safety of the riders. And if the UCI is unwilling to do that, the race promoters will push it to the limit to have a better and better spectacle for their spectators and their event. So, UCI, the motos and the cars, that's not the only problem. Let's get after the helicopters. And there should be a pretty easy way to establish how close the helicopters can get. You just measure it, whatever it is, 3,000 feet, 5,000 feet, 10,000 feet, wherever they do not impede the race and they can get their shots, which we love. Let's not make a mistake about that. We love the helicopter shots, but there has to be a safe altitude that they can fly at. All right, Tour of Trentino. More good news for Team Sky. Mikel Landa comes up with the overall win after winning stage number 2. A great week for Team Sky. A little bit of the bad and ugly in women's racing at the Dwars door Westhoek. Just a few meters to go. And this is Marianne Vos, who's returning from a long layoff due to injury and starts to sprint, has a great chance to win this race, which would be quite an accomplishment coming back from injury, and gets a little bit too close to the barriers and gets her bars hooked in and just goes down. Oh, man. Oh. Into the cobbles to make matters worse. Luckily, her team has said no major consequences from that crash. A lot of road rash, bruises, and definitely Marianne Vos is going to be sore for a few days out training. And Marianne Vos said, it was my own fault. I got too far forward during the sprint, and the back wheel came up off the cobbles. They're not easy to sprint on, and just leaned in a little bit too close, got too close to the barriers and went down. And that's a shame. But luckily, no injuries to report. That won't heal presently. All right, next up, Musette Musings. First up, from Great Britain, former Great Britain track sprinter Jess Varnish said that she was subjected to sexist comments during her time on the national team. In an interview with the Daily Mail, according to Varnish, British Cycling Technical Director Shane Sutton told Varnish to, quote, "move on and get on with having a baby," unquote. She also alleges that she was subjected to statements about her physical appearance. This is also from Jess Varnish, "I can't imagine Shane Sutton saying something to one of the men about their body shape or telling them to go off and have a baby." This is what Shane Sutton's response was. "I wholeheartedly deny that I said or did anything other than act with complete professionalism in my dealings with Jess," unquote. Both of these statements cannot be true. Somebody is not telling the truth. If we look at what the motivation might be, Shane Sutton has everything to gain from people believing his statement to be true, and Jess Varnish has nothing to gain by making these allegations. So, in my opinion, I think Jess Varnish is probably telling the truth. I think that to come forward is not easy. It's the last thing any athlete wants to do is come forward with these allegations, I don't see how she has anything to gain by saying that. So that being the case, you know, it's possible. I just don't see why she would lie about something like that. I don't see it. If somebody can explain that to me, I'd be happy to entertain whatever opinions might be out there. And I'll tell you that the statement from British Cycling does not help me to change my opinion. This is what British Cycling said. "At no point in the performance review or appeal process did Jess raise concerns about sexism or any other form of discriminatory behavior in the Great Britain cycling team. Is there a statute of limitations? Is Jess Varnish or the other athletes on British Cycling required to make statements about their treatment from the coaching staff?" I mean, this is a very difficult thing to talk about, and however long it takes should not be a part of whether or not something did or did not happen. So by saying that she didn't come forward up until now does not mean it did not happen. So I think that, to be honest, Shane Sutton should be removed from his position as technical director of British Cycling for a probationary period where all of the documents are reviewed and that Jess Varnish has a chance to have a review of her situation, and that fairness and justice will be able to resolve this discrepancy. You cannot have two statements that are more different. So let's hope in the days and weeks to come we will have more information on this. British Cycling has said, "We are fully committed to the principles of active promotion of equality of opportunity. As such, we treat any such allegations with the utmost seriousness, and we will be contacting Jess to offer to discuss her concerns in full." So hopefully Jess Varnish will have a chance to do that, and an accurate understanding of these events can come to light. In the meantime, which they haven't done, I think they should suspend Shane Sutton from his duties until the situation is resolved accurately and fairly. Okay, very controversial. I love it. I love not talking about that sort of thing, but you got to do it. And if that's not controversial enough, Lance Armstrong, back in the news. He just had a race recently, competed in what's called a Spartan race, It's a form of obstacle racing that's becoming more and more popular. There's a bunch of series out there that people can compete in. Not an Olympic sport. As far as I know, there's not a national or world or Olympic title in obstacle racing. They do have a governing body, the Obstacle Racing Association World Championships, I think it's called. But Lance Armstrong racing again in spite of a lifetime ban from cycling. And what a lifetime ban means, that's what I'd like to talk about in this. And does that mean that Lance can't do any bike races, any triathlons, any running races? He can't participate in like it would be the umbrella of WADA sanctioned events, which is the IOC. So theoretically, you can't compete in anything. I don't know if bowling is in the Olympics. Maybe he could try some bowling out, but there is a clause in the WADA code that states after 4 years from the beginning of the lifetime ban, an athlete can compete in sports they were not banned in. So any sports that you did not accrue your lifetime ban in, after 4 years, you can compete in those sports as long as you don't have as long as you don't earn points for a national title, world championships, or any international competition. So there's a lot of gray area there. So theoretically, as of August, I believe, of this summer, Lance will be eligible to compete in running races and maybe triathlon. That I do not know, as long as there's no points up for grabs for a national title or a world championship or international competition. Whether or not obstacle races can be considered as accruing points to be eligible for international competition or national championships or world titles, that I do not know. But it does beg the question, is Lance Armstrong's lifetime ban fair? And if you consider that, if you consider it rationally and without vitriol, without the animosity and acrimony that surrounds doping, if we look at what Lance's actual punishable infraction was, it wasn't being mean. I don't think being mean is in the rule, but you can't be mean, or a lot of the other things he's been accused of. But the actual infraction, and there's many hundreds of athletes probably that have basically run afoul of the same infraction, and that is cheating with drugs. So is Lance Armstrong's lifetime ban fair? And in light of what other athletes have done, and you know, it can be argued the level, the involvement, all of the things that and believe me, there's a lot of misconceptions out there about who's doing what. And those were not helped by Travis Tygart of USADA with scintillating headlines about the doping program at the United States Postal Cycling Team. So let's try not to consider those things for now and just consider the infraction, cheating with drugs, and the penalty, whether it's fair or not. I'm sure I'll get a lot of comments on that, and I'm looking forward to those for both of these subjects. Wow, a lot going on in the Musette Musings. All right, now it's time for Tweet of the Week. This coming to us from Chris Froome, tweeting about Liege-Bastogne Liege, which on Sunday was competed under abysmal, apocalyptic conditions. This is what Froome Dog, what the Froominator said, and this is his tweet. You know it's been a rough day when you don't know how you've ended up in your teammate's kit. And if you look at Froomey's sleeve, it says Boswell. Somehow he has Ian Boswell's jersey on. Maybe Ian Boswell brought a really warm jersey and gave it to Chris Froome. Maybe Chris was distracted, or maybe it was so cold he grabbed all the clothes in the team bus before the start. But nobody is immune to the suffering and the fatigue that last Sunday's Liege-Bastogne Liège visited upon the peloton. No one, not even Chris Froome, defending Tour de France champion. Hopefully Chris will launder Ian's jersey before he gives it back to him, because it was a miserable, gritty, old school, Old Testament, biblical edition of Liege-Bastogne Liège. And thankfully the snow just let off enough for the race to transpire, won by Chris Froome's teammate Wout Poels. So that's it for this week's Broom Wagon. Comments, I might get a few. Looking forward to them. Suggestions, subscriptions, and thumbs up. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Thanks a lot, everybody. I'm calling this a hoax. I'm calling this clickbait, sensationalism, and I am going to have to ask the producers of this show to name the rider.